So I'll very quickly go through the Battle of Beowulf in the 2100 AD role-playing game. It's one of the major events of the timeline, the very last event. It ends the second Kafer Invasion. It comes from the mind of the late J. Andrew Keefe from his 2100 AD module Invasion. And all the materials we're going to discuss are as described by the late J. Andrew Keefe, and from the extended universe, non-conflicting fanon, such as the Etranja website, etc. And this is the representation of the battle as shown in the module Invasion. You can basically see some fighters, there's some beta class cruisers, some economy class frigates fighting each other in quite close order, probably quite stylized. But strategically, what's going on here? This is the French arm as drawn by Dan Hebditch. So the humans, they have a small fleet at Aora under Rear Admiral Sergei Borodin. It's endured a very long siege, and it basically sits on the Kafer supply line. He's got 3 large capital ships, 2 French, well, 1 French, 2 German battleships, battle cruisers. Up at Sanssouci, operating against Joie, Crater, and Beta Cannon, is the combined fleet of Rear Admiral Ferdinand Rochemont. He has 2 battleships, the Richelieu and the de Gaulle. De Gaulle not canonically named, but it's there. And the German battleship Bayern. At Beowulf, and hence blocking the route to Earth, is the Terran Reserve Fleet, which has the bulk of the British forces, some French forces, some small American, German, and Ukrainian forces. And it's under Vice Admiral Sir Charles Graham, which the picture of here is represented by Andrew Cunningham, who was commanded the Mediterranean fleet during the Second World War. And at Earth there is some small forces left over where we don't get ship names, but very roughly a couple of French battleships, British battlecruiser, the Duke of York. And the Kafers are primarily occupying much of human space here, from Hochbaden up to Henry Starr. Joie, 6106 Majoris, has been recently liberated. The question of what Triumph of Destiny, the Kafer leader, is going to do has been undecided for the last few months. It wants to go for Earth, but it has to break through the reserve fleet of Admiral Graham. So it has decided to gather in virtually all of its available ships that can fight, that are fully capable, and it's going to go for the human fleet at Beowulf. If it breaks through here, it's basically won the war. This is a big gamble, but it's one Triumph of Destiny is going to roll the dice and take. Probably shouldn't have done. Should probably have withdrawn back towards the Kafer space. But yeah, that's the game. That's the timeline. So this is a quick representation of the Queen Alice's star system. Queen Alice's star at the center. 4 planets in the inner system where ships are sublight. 4 planets in the outer system where ships are faster than light until they're very close to these planets. And the human forces, Vice Admiral Charles Graham, he has Force A, which is, I've made these divisions, but they make sense. Force A is 4 fast battle groups, each based around a battleship or a battle cruiser. 3 of them British: the Victory, the Britannia, the Prince of Wales. Prince of Wales, of course, named by the late Wade Racine. And 1 based around a French battleship, not actually named in canon, but in this case we're going to call it the Charlemagne. Each of these battle groups has the capital ship, 2 or 3 large or heavy cruisers, and about 4 destroyers accompanying them. They're actually missile destroyers. They're quite powerful ships in their own right. Supporting them is Force B, and Force B, we're going to call it the carrier groups, although only 2 of these capital ships are actually carriers. There is the Ark Royal and the Joffre, British and French respectively. Again, names not in canon. These have, fairly large fighter wings, and accompanying them there is the weak sort of hybrid carrier battle cruiser Columbia. It can't stand in the battle line. It doesn't have as many fighters as a carrier. It's a sort of jack of all trades, master of none ship. Each of these carrier groups got a couple of escorts with them. Destroyers, probably Kennedy-like cruisers in the case of the Columbia, because the Americans don't have proper destroyers. They have only escort destroyers. Then Force C, this is basically what's left. It's the Germans, the Ukrainians, and any convoy escorts that don't really have any place in the battle line. They'd slow down the fleets. And these are going to hang around basically a Beowulf to defend the base and get involved if the fight moves towards Beowulf itself. And around the system there are a bunch of frigates and light ships. These are screening, looking for the Kafers crossing the FTL shelf. The Kafers trying to discharge their drives in the outer system. They're there to give early warning to Graham. So we start on the 12th of July 2302 with the Kafers actually entering the Queen Alice's star system, and they do so in two wings. Directly from Commangino, heading for Beowulf proper, is the main battle line of the Kafers under an unnamed suzerain. We're going to go with Vision of Glory. He is one of the more capable suzerains that isn't known to be dead at this point. So he has 6 regular battleships, a Delta, his flagship, 2 Alphas and 2 improved Alphas, Alpha Indias. He has 10, they're called cruisers, they're really missile destroyers, Epsilon class, and about 36 fighters embarked. Triumph of Destiny itself, it's going to enter the system from the direction of Earth, having skipped around and coming from the backside. It has its flagship, a Delta, the strongest Delta, which hasn't been damaged at all, and probably has the cruisers of the fleet with it, the beaters and the fighters that they would carry. And this is actually a much faster wing than the main battle line. Hence, they can try and close in from 2 sides on the Terran forces. However, there's a frigate near where Triumph of Destiny enters the system. It spots the incoming Kafers, it warns Graham, exchanges missile fire, and is destroyed in the exchange. So, moving to the next day, roughly the 13th, the Kafers have not discharged their stutter warps in the outer system. This means they can't warp out, they can't withdraw. It also means tactically they're a huge disadvantage. Since the stutter warps are carrying a gravimetric charge, if their drives are hit, the charge will relax and basically the ship will explode. This is actually a really, really bad situation to be fighting in. It's one of the reasons why defending a system is much easier than attacking a system in 2300 AD. So, the Kafers are going to advance. Force A by Force B is going to advance to engage the main Kafer battle line, whereas the fast wing is going to advance and try and swing around to probably attack Beowulf itself, is the idea. The Triumph of Destiny's Delta is actually slower than the Beta. It's probably going to fall behind a little bit. So, moving to the actual engagement, 14th of July, Force A engages. Kafers continue to advance. So, heavy engagement. The Kafers can make a full commitment, bang their entire battle force up. Major fight is happening between Beowulf and the Shelf. Kafers take very heavy casualties. Several ships destroyed. And then battle's broken off. Force A and B withdraw towards Beowulf, so not leave it unprotected. Forming new line. Some of the damaged Kafer ships, and maybe some others, they're going to retreat, discharge their stutter warps. The outer system, maybe Unferth, which is actually the safest of the anchorages there. And the Kafers are going to regroup. So about half the original forces remain, very roughly Triumph at Destiny's Delta, which is probably a bit slower than the betas, doesn't quite catch up, but going to still be involved. 2 regular battleships apart from his Delta, an Alpha and an Alpha India, the 5 cruisers, about 5 destroyers, and the remaining fighters. So Graham, he's going to reposition his forces to actually meet the incoming threat near Beowulf, which of course means he can use his slower ships which can't keep up. He's got all his fighters based in orbit of the planet itself. The Kafers, for their part, they see the humans retreating, so it's like the humans are weak, they're on the run, they're going to pursue. They're going to pursue us towards Beowulf, and the humans are going to meet them. So 17th of July, 2302, Graham is going to engage the Kafer battle line. Sensing that at this point, the Kafers are massively outnumbered, massively outgunned, Graham's going to push in and actually go to close action, so probably engaging with the ship's guns themselves, not just with missiles and fighters. Carriers are going to move out to the flanks, and the Columbia, seeing the flagship, the enemy flagship of Triumph of Destiny on its own, unsupported, it's going to engage them directly. It, of course, hasn't got the combat power to really take a Delta on its own, but it's distracting Triumph of Destiny, and then a group of fighters from the British carrier, the Ark Royal, they're going to make a alpha strike on it, and they're going to destroy the Kafer flagship. This means that the Kafers have no one to tell them to retreat. They become disorganized, and ultimately they're going to be overwhelmed and pretty much destroyed to a man, to a Kafer. At this point, the Kafer ships withdrew to discharge. They have discharged. They can actually exit the system, and Graham can pursue them, but that pretty much ends the Battle of Beowulf. So on the strategic level, what of course happens is some of the Kafer ships withdraw to Comanchino, but some of them are turned towards Earth. So these leakers are going to make an end run for Earth. They are going to be destroyed in the Sol system itself. Graham and Rochemont, they're going to clear their French arm, but very oddly enough, Dunkelheim isn't liberated until February of 2303, according to Operation Overlord module. This has always been slightly confusing to us. It's probably a nationalistic thing where the Germans, desperate to liberate their own colony, of course, in the book, they can't do it. They have to get Americans to do it for them. And that pretty much ends the 2300 AD timeline.